All right, we are live and welcome everybody to the 25 Marketing Mastermind. And we hope that everybody's having a super fantastic, amazing day. We are out of people today because Katie and Pops are having trouble with their internet. They're busy traveling the States, and I can see that. Sorry, I'm just checking to see if this thing's actually working on the left-hand side here. Everything seems to be okay. Cool. Hey, Bob, we see you there, and welcome, man. And I know not more people are going to be jumping on soon, but man, it is freezing over here in South Africa. I got to say, I'm quite cold, and I told Jamie the temperature, and he was kind of laughing at me. He was making fun of me a little bit, weren't you, Jamie?
Yeah, because it's like 90 degrees here today, and it's cooled off to like 85 degrees Fahrenheit. And so it's been pretty hot. Tomorrow it's supposed to be like 97 degrees Fahrenheit, which is hot for us. And a couple weeks ago, Dave was making fun of me because he said, "Oh, it's like 113 degrees every day over here."
Yeah, no, it's been well, I don't know, man. We're going into winter, and man, when it gets cold, it gets cold. It's kind of freezing. But I don't know. We're going to get other people in here. A few Roberts over there, and it's Joe. Joe just joined us. Joe Whistler, welcome, Joe. We missed you, buddy. We haven't seen you in a while there. Yeah. Anyway, so we've got an interesting subject to cover today. But before we do that, let me ask Jamie how his week was. Jamie, what interesting things have happened for you this week?
Oh, let's see. Saturday, the hangout or the workshop was pretty awesome. I led the workshop. It's always awesome when I do it. Saturday night, my wife and I went to a concert for Big and Rich, which are big country music stars, and we had a blast there. They did a tribute to Vietnam veterans, pulled like 3 Vietnam veterans up on stage, and then they sang God Bless America, and everybody had their cell phones up. So the whole crowd was all lit up with their cell phone flashlights on and everything. And that was really cool. And then they sang their tribute song, the 8th of November, which is a cool song dedicated to Vietnam veterans. And it was a really cool evening, especially the dedication to the veterans and everything. So it was a fun night. So we had a pretty good weekend. So.
Oh man, it is quite amazing. I know we adjusted the times of the workshop so we could have, for me, an actual Sunday where I can actually go to church, and a Saturday where I wasn't freaking out because I had stuff to do. But to have the workshop at 4 o'clock in the evening on my time is really quite. It's an adjustment because every night now I'm thinking, gee, this kind of feels weird. I'm supposed to be doing something, but I've got like the rest of the day off, which is kind of amazing. But the new times are really cool. And I know that Robert is on a bit of sabbatical. He'll be joining us probably maybe a few weeks or a few months when he gets time to get back. But we miss you, buddy. And we also miss old Joe there. Been kind of empty without Joe, hasn't it? But hasn't it?
Yeah, it is. I'm used to him teaching every week, and he wasn't on this Saturday, so it's kind of weird that he wasn't teaching. So,
yeah, I mean, for those of you who don't know, when Joe gets on the workshop, he says every time that he feels kind of guilty when he hasn't got something to teach, and that is one of the best attitudes that I can think of inside of this industry, is to always wanting to be able to teach, which is a really commendable thing. So, Joe, well done for that. And Joe McKenzie, if you're on here, buddy, we just want to say hi to you. Joe is one of our latest signups, and I know that he's getting his back office sorted out. And if Julio is watching, Julio, I just want to say hi to you as well, because he signed up recently as well. I know he's also keen to get inside of the workshop, and I've given him instructions to get on there. If you want to get on the workshop, you need to make a video inside of the group. Tell us who you are, tell us your strengths and weaknesses and why you want to get on the workshop, and then we will plug you into the workshop, which has a 24-hour chat round the clock where we can help and assist you inside of your business. And it has been quite quiet today, the workshop chat. It must be because everyone's working.
Yeah, it is. It's been very quiet, you know, and the best part of the workshop is, you know, you mentioned Joe teaching. I encouraged everybody Saturday to come to this Saturday with something to teach, because if you're scared to do video and stuff, that's your time to do a video or something, or teach in front of an audience. So you're not scared to do it when you put it out to the public. You get a little practice run, you get a little critique from the workshop. That's why we developed this workshop. So
yeah, absolutely. You know, before we get on to this, well, actually, maybe we should just dive right into the topic we're going to be talking about today. I've titled this one of the biggest blocks that you can have inside of your business, but also inside of your life, your personal relationships, mainly everything. What we're talking about today is being a victim. All right, being a victim. You've actually, in actual fact, when I titled this on my Facebook wall, I entitled it, "Come and Join Our Pity Party." And it's not what you think. All right, we're having one big pity party here because we're talking about being a victim. And, there are obviously people that are actual victims of crimes and all of that stuff. We understand that as well. But there was the other type of victim where people decide to take a different understanding of the word. Even though they may be a victim of life's tragedies, from a car accident, some sort of tragedy, they, for some reason, decide that they are going to not be a victim. And we want to talk about this, and not only just talk about it, but also give you some signs as to whether you may be, or somebody else around you may be, a victim. And I've got to say from the get-go that the temptation is going to be, whenever I read this list out, that you're going to be thinking something like, oh, okay, let me see how so-and-so is a victim. The first person I want you to think about is yourself, including me, because even though I believe a lot of people that I know aren't in fact victims, it's very easy to slip into that hole. Because once we start exercising these points that I'm going to be talking about, it's very easy to develop a new habit. And before you know it, you are actually stuck in victim mode and you're angry at the whole world. And that's a very dangerous place to be. So I want to give you an example, a very basic example of victimhood. But the reason I'm making this very basic is because I want you to get an idea of what I actually mean. Sometimes if we exaggerate a point, it becomes clearer to us, and we can see from the exaggerated point what it actually means to be a victim. And maybe Jamie can think of an example. So many moons ago, when I was in school, I used to get permission from my folks to go over and sleep at my friend's house. I don't know if you did that, Jamie, when you were a kid. You go and sleep at a friend's house, and we would play a game called Space Invaders, right? Or on his Spectrum computer that he had back then. It was a really old computer. And the number one complaint I would hear from my friend was, oh, this controller's broken. It's the controller's fault. Oh, the stupid game. What's wrong with these buttons? They don't work. And I don't know if you see this, but this is something you see a lot of. Whenever people are playing games and something doesn't seem to go right, if you do not have a skill or you're not really good at the game, somehow it's the fault of the controller. Can anybody identify with this? I'm sure people can. Maybe, Jamie, yeah. You can.
I used to play with my boys when they were growing up, and they kicked my butt, and I always blame the computer game or something like that, because I didn't want to admit that they were better at me at playing the game. So
Oh man, as I grew up and everything, and I used to play these other games with my friends. I used to, just on a side note, if the guy didn't know the game properly or whatever, I'd say, "Hey man, go and stand in front of me and just stand still. If you stand still for 10 seconds, you get like 20 points." And I would shoot him,
yeah.
But yeah. And then I'd say the phrase, "Did you die? Did you die? Did you die?" It would drive him crazy because that's all he heard. But hopefully I was just giving him some linguistic programming technique to help him realize that he just got to do badly. But ultimately, when you are the victim, this is the basic form of what happens. You blame everything else around you but yourself. And I know it's an easy thing to say, but sometimes it's a very different experience to learn. Jamie, can you think of any examples growing up where people were the victims in whatever thing they did, or maybe somebody in the chat can?
I mean, I think a lot of people have that mentality. In the beginning, something happens to you, you're, oh, why is God punishing me? Why does this always happen to me? And there's things that just come out. I mean, there's true victims out there. I mean, they were in a car accident. They were born with a I can't even talk. A disabling disease, or something like that. They're true victims. I mean, but most of them don't sit in the victim mentality. They overcome and adapt to their situation and become, powerhouses. I can't think of the guy's name, but he has no arms and no legs, and he became a motivational speaker, and he is unreal when you listen to him speak. And he didn't let that hold him back. I seen something the other night on YouTube. A little girl would come out. It was like The Voice or something like that. So a girl come out and played the piano and sang with her feet because she had no arms. So if people like that don't look at themselves as a victim, why should you look at yourself as a victim? God's not punishing you. Your brain's punishing you for being a wussy.
Yeah, and I mean, the other day I saw. I was watching one, these vids that come out on YouTube with people that do this America's Got Talent, and there was a guy that go down stage, somebody who stutters very, very badly due to an accident he had when he was playing baseball, and he gets on stage, and his act is a comedian. He decides to become a comedian that stutters, and he uses his disability as a way for him to actually overcome the very thing that's stopping him. And he never saw himself as a victim. He overcame this. And, that's very true what you said. There are so many people who have been in circumstances that perhaps they've got spastic cerebral palsy like my buddy has, but he manages to pull through despite the fact that he's disabled. He's got so many things to complain about, but he still carries on. He still makes a way. He is the most tidiest person I know, and I'm the complete opposite of him. And yet, why is it that he is disabled? He's got every reason to keep everything messy, but he can keep everything tidy, and I can't. One of the detracting factors I had when I first got started online was the fact that I thought, because I lived in a third world country, that I could never attain financial independence. And look at me now. I had to change the way that I thought. I honestly thought that because I lived in Africa or South Africa, because I was in a third world country, there's no way that I could have competed with anybody in a first world country. And now I'm going neck and neck with people that live in first world countries. And then people in first world countries, they look at my situation, and the first thing they think is, how on earth does this guy do it? How does he manage to do it? If Dave can do it, surely I can do it. And that's life-changing. And so, getting on back to my actual points here, I've actually written down a few points on ways that you can actually detect whether you are in victim mode, whether you think you are or not. These points that I'm going to mention are very, very poignant. They're very, very. They will hit you straight between the eyes. And if you have any symptoms of these, maybe you need to look at yourself and ask yourself, are you playing the victim? All right. I was just speaking to somebody today about starting a business online. And this guy says to me, how much to start? And I said to him, why? How much can you invest? And he said something like 500. And I said, 500 what? And he said, 500 rupees. And I said, how much is that in dollars? And he said, $7 or $8. And I said, no, man, that's way too low. You need to invest far more than that. And he says, oh, well, then, then I can't do it. So I then told him, I said, well, what is it that you're passionate about? And he said, he loves playing poker. He loves it. It's like something he really enjoys. So I said, why don't? Because he can't afford the money right now to get his business going, but he can start developing a following. He can start somewhere. So I said, why not make videos about how to play poker? And immediately, there seems to be a bias and a default setting that people go to where they will think of every excuse as to why they can't do it. And for him, it was the fact that so many other people were making videos on how to play poker. And I said, are you kidding? Do you have any idea how many people online teach people to make money online? Do you honestly think people are going, oh, well, so-and-so is doing it, so I'm not? And I was giving this guy ideas on what he can do for his own business to actually get him going so he can start out and start thinking towards how he can grow his own business online, even though he can't afford the basic tools that we have right now because he lives in a country that very much struggles like I did. But you can make this happen. Now, getting back to my point before I get distracted again. Jamie, you keep distracting me. So here's the first way you can actually detect if you're in victim mode or know of somebody that is. If you are asking yourself this, why me? And we've all been there, haven't we? So something isn't working out and you keep trying the same thing over again and you eventually default to this question, why me? Why is this happening to me? I don't understand why I'm the only one having trouble. Why me? And, ask yourself this question. Have you ever, how many times a day do you say that to yourself? Why me? Why does this always happen to me? Maybe you're not saying it verbally. Maybe you're saying this in your head. Jamie, can you identify with this? Have you ever been there?
Oh, I've been there so many times,
Colleen's on. Hi, Colleen.
I've been there so many times, and it's why, why aren't you taking action on something? In the beginning when I was afraid to do videos, Pat told me to do videos. I met Dave and Katie, they told me to do videos. And I'm like, why me? Why do I have to do videos? I don't want to do videos. Like, what was it, last Saturday? Dave's telling me, you need to start doing the SAM method. I told him, I don't understand the SAM method. He said, stop, time out. You don't need to understand it, just do it. I'm like, okay. But Dave, I don't understand binary options. He said, time out. You don't need to understand binary options, just do the review. That's all you got to worry about. Like, all right, so I went and thought about it. Yeah, he's right. I need to do the binary option reviews. I don't have to do every video of a binary options review, but I need to start including the binary option reviews in my videos. So, we all have that mentality. Why do I have to do this? Or why me? Why does this happen to me? Why am I not successful like the other guy? Well, because you're using excuses and boo-hooing and crying about why not you?
And I've been there as well, and sometimes I find myself falling into that trap. Even still now, I'll say something like, why me? The point is, you can't make it a habit. That's where it becomes dangerous. I'm not saying that you won't say it, but every now and then, if you catch yourself saying, why me? stop yourself and rephrase the question or rephrase it to the point where you can say to yourself, what skill can I learn to overcome this? Or something to that effect. Because the moment you say, why me? Like, why am I the victim? That's when things get a little rough. The second way you can identify whether you are a victim is, now I'm just reading this here. Yes, this is the one. When you are looking for ways to make yourself feel better. Now, there's nothing wrong with making yourself feel better. I'm all for that. But when you are constantly looking for that next high, that next rush, that next thing that's going to get you to be excited, and this normally manifests itself in the area of drugs. And then you might say to me, well, Dave, I don't do cocaine, or I don't do speed, I don't do major drugs, but it could be something as simple as prescription drugs. It could be something simple as over-the-counter drugs. Now, I don't know about in the States how effective your over-the-counter drugs are, but here in South Africa, over-the-counter drugs can kill you, okay, because we don't really have a huge lock on that. But if you keep on doing something over and over again, you're constantly looking to make yourself feel better. And it usually comes from a place where you do not feel that you are worth anything. So you have to consistently look for other people to give you assurances. And so another way it manifests itself is where you're constantly looking for that compliment, where you're looking for affirmation that you are a good person. And if you are in that mode, it usually comes, now hear me out, it usually comes out of a position of feeling that you're not loved. And the best way that you can overcome that, believe it or not, and this is going to sound really corny, it's going to sound incredibly corny, I can't believe I'm about to say this, but overcome that is by loving other people. That is the only way that you can actually get yourself into a sense of feeling love, because it is impossible. It is impossible to do something loving towards somebody else and feel bad at the same time. Some people have a lot of money, but they're miserable. That's true. But I guarantee you this, if you go and you give somebody $200, you give them $200, not even with the intention of paying it back, but you give them $200. At that moment, you cannot feel bad. Now, here's where the change kicks in. When you start to make a habit of helping other people and assisting other people and loving other people, when you start to make that a habit, your self-worth increases 100-fold. You understand what I'm saying there, Jamie? Does that make sense?
Oh yeah. You have to learn to love other people more than you love yourself. So, and that's what a lot of people struggle with. A lot of people struggle with relationships, and the biggest key to relationship is loving your partner more than you love yourself. And communicating with your partner better than you communicate yourself. And that's one of the big philosophies that they teach in network marketing, is that you have to worry about your prospects or your leads or the people you're talking to more than you worry about yourself. When you quit worrying about yourself, that's when big things start to happen. As long as you continue to worry about yourself, then nothing's going to happen.
Yeah, it's a weird thing that people have often said to me. The relationships that I've been in myself is that when you're in a situation where, you see, people say this. They'll say something like, a relationship is about give and take. They say it's about give and take. And that's fine. But my philosophy on relationships is to give until you can't give no more. You just keep on giving. Because, there are always going to be off days. There are always going to be days where you don't want to give. And I understand that. But if you have the philosophy of give, you cannot give to somebody to make them feel great without feeling and feeling bad at the same time. And that's called unconditional love. You know, it's like when you love your own kids, despite the fact that they say stuff like, I hate you. You know, hey, JB, I'm sure you've experienced that. I hate you.
Oh, yeah. I've heard it many times. I hate you, Dad. I said, that's okay. I love you, though. So, you know.
And that is the key. That is the key to relationships. To love people despite the fact that you don't get love in return. Believe it or not, guys, everybody watching this right now, if you want to make a difference in your community, in your life, in your personal relationships, in your business, the way that you stand out is by loving people 1,000 times more than you love yourself. I mean, think of all the examples that we know of, people that have contributed to society. How much, Jamie, has Oprah given people over the years?
I mean, she's given so much. I've seen one episode where she gave the whole audience brand new cars, you know.
Yeah, Brandon. Yeah,
she gives,
I mean,
all the time.
She was always giving, always giving. And look, you know, the whole idea here is the principle that when you give to other people, that's when, ironically, that's when people focus on you more. And there's a book, there's a chapter in my book called How to Be the Center of Attention Without Being Selfish. And the way you ultimately do that is to make it about the other person. So that's what I want to say about that. And that's really how you conquer the feeling of not feeling of any self-worth. So my next point is this. When you are in victim mode, you become entitled. All right. So you, for some reason, think that the world owes you everything. I don't know why people, you know, it's like people should be born into this world with the phrase, you are not entitled. The fact that we have freedoms in the governments that we live in America, you guys have amazing freedoms, right? You have amazing freedoms. And everybody thinks for some reason that they are entitled. Like it's just the way that life is supposed to be. The harsh truth is that nobody is entitled to anything. You work for what you earn, right? When you start thinking that you deserve to have things, and we see this so self-evident in government programs, and people get so used to the government giving them free stuff that for some reason, if they can't make the next month, it's the government's fault. It's not the government's fault. And this might be a touchy subject for some people, but you know what? I'm going to say it because it's true. The fact of the matter is that everything that you have in life, somebody has worked for it. Even when government programs are giving to help people who are in need, somebody has worked for that because it's the tax dollars that help that happen. Nobody is entitled to anything. Nobody. The only thing you are entitled to is your life. Everything else you have is a gift. You know, that's why they call it the present, to be a little bit corny, if you understand what I'm saying. Do you want to say anything about this, Jamie?
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's a touchy subject, you know, because there's a lot of people on the welfare system that feel that they're entitled, you know, and, you know, they get $400 or $500 a month for their housing, and they get another $600 or $700, $800 a month in food stamps, and they get free college, you know, stuff like that. And they're coming on Facebook and telling how entitled they are to this money. Well, there's millions of people out there. I mean, a lot of you know I work a full-time job. Well, I pay taxes because I work a full-time job. I'm paying for you to get this stuff for free. And then people, what really makes me mad about it, you know, and I really don't want to start a big discussion or argument about this because, you know, it is a touchy subject. But what irritates me is people who get on Facebook and say they're entitled to it. When I've got a daughter that's 26 years old, she's a single mother. She has one child. She works a full-time job, and she can't make it from week to week because, you know, She don't have a car payment because we paid cash for her car, but she's got car insurance. She's got cell phone bills. She got a little boy to take care of. We help her out all the time. She lives here with us because she can't make it, and she makes pretty good money, but she still can't make it because the cost of living is so outrageous. You know, somebody like that could use a little extra help, but they can't get it because the entitled person thinks they deserve it. So
it's very frustrating. And I mean, it's sometimes when I hear figures like $500 a month and $200 a month, I'm going, are you serious? I mean, is that even, do people even get that in the States? I mean, is that a real thing?
oh yeah, there was a girl that was on Facebook that was up from Springfield, Illinois. I think it was Springfield, but she was getting like $600 a month in cash assistance. She was getting $1,000 a month in food stamps because she had 5 kids, and then she was getting to go to school for full time for free. No, you know, she didn't have to pay nothing to go to school, and then you know, tax return, she's getting like $10,000 back in tax return.
And you know, we wonder why a lot of society feels like they're entitled.
Right.
And I'm not calling you a bad person if you're on welfare or anything like that. I'm not saying you're a bad person. But
Yeah,
you
and I'm
know the
not either,
difference.
so.
Yeah, no, yeah, I know. We're not saying that at all. But there is a pattern that forms over time when you get used to a handout, and you get used to it, and then suddenly it becomes part of your world. And the moment it's taken away, you feel like that somebody has taken away something that you deserve because it's been given to you all the time. And
yeah, I agree with that. You know, bad things happen to bad people. You know, if something bad happens to you and you need it, that's what it's supposed to be there for. But people abuse the system, and that's what we're talking about, trying to cover here.
And that's an interesting point you said there. You know, but bad things happen to good people as well. I mean, you know, and that's because life ultimately is not fair. Have you heard people say that? Why is life so unfair, or life should be fair?
Oh yeah, I mean, you hear it all the time that life's not unfair. You know, and you know, I struggled with that when I was growing up too, because you know, I grew up with the mentality that I'd never amount to anything because my dad used to get mad at me and he'd tell me that all the time. So I struggled with that for a long time. And, you know, everything I've had in my life, you know, I just turned 49 in June. Everything we have, you know, the cars we have, the house we own, stuff like that, I've worked for my entire life. My wife has worked for her entire life, you know. And there's been times when I've been flat broke, you know. There was a time when I lost my job, you know, and I was unemployed for 15 months. You know, we were robbing from Peter to pay Paul, you know, but stuff like that happens. And that's what, you know, I was trying to say in the last segment, you know, is, you know, sometimes shit happens, you know, it can't be avoided. Bad things happen, you know, but you got to pick yourself back up, wipe the dirt off and go back to it. Because if you give up and play the victim, then you're going to stay the victim the rest of your life. So.
Yeah, and I mean, it's unfortunately we have come to a place, and you know, I know we got so many great people on right now. You know, we got Colleen, who I know doesn't play the victim. We've got Bob, who doesn't play the victim. We've got Joe Wisso, who doesn't play the victim. We've got people that actually want to make a use of their life and they want to earn their way. And you know, there's another thing. When you earn something, there is a sense of pride to that. There is really a sense of pride to be able to earn something. And that's something which I think everybody needs to strive for. Now, getting back to my list here before we go way off topic, the other thing where you can actually identify whether you might be a victim is when, and this could be a sore point for a lot of people, is when you, for some reason, feel that you deserve respect. Not only deserve respect, I suppose there's a difference, but when you demand respect because you feel that you've gone through enough where you should be given the respect that you need. And I'm not saying that people shouldn't respect other people like your elders, and absolutely that should be the case. But the truth of the matter is that most people have earned their respect. And that's the difference. You know, you can't just go into a crowd and expect people to suddenly give you the respect that you need. But I have seen this so many times where somebody who's a little immature, who hasn't learned boundaries, or for some reason thinks that they fall under the category that I've spoken of. If you say something a little bit off, suddenly you've got to apologize to them. I knew this guy, I've been kind of acquaintance with him for a long time. And his dad passed away when he was very young. And he used to call his son boy all the time. It was it's just the way that his dad spoke to him. And when his dad passed away, every time somebody called him that word, boy, in some form of context, the first thing he would say is, "Don't call me boy. Don't call me boy." Like if you carried on calling him that, then something bad was going to happen to you. It manifests itself in so many ways. The truth is, nobody knows where you come from. Nobody knows your history. Nobody gives a fig about who you are. You got to figure out that you don't deserve anything. You need to earn what you get. And if you're going around demanding respect from people when they should be giving you respect, you really don't have a lot of, it comes back to this thing of having self-worth. When you really have a low opinion of yourself, so you need the affirmation from other people to make you feel good. And if people don't give you that respect or don't give you what you deserve, you turn to things that give you a sense of greatness, like drinking or doing drugs or I don't know, get into some addiction that really gives you a sense of significance. Does that make sense, Jamie?
That makes perfect sense, and you want respect. I'll tell you a good story of how to get respect. I first met Dave, he didn't know me from Adam. He answered my questions, when I had questions and stuff. Katie was the same way. I didn't demand respect from Dave and Katie. I worked and worked and worked, and they saw the work in me, and I earned their respect. And for the respect I earned from them, they put me on this panel. That's earning respect, because I didn't just blow smoke up their skirts. I studied, I worked, and I taught things that I knew, stuff that I knew how to do, and I showed them, what value I have to give to this community, and they recognized it and brought me in. So,
yeah, and that's, a lot of you, and here's the other thing: when you are completely fine with yourself and you are okay with who you are, and you see Jamie getting elevated to a level, the right response, the appropriate response, is to congratulate Jamie and to wish him well on his success. The wrong response is to think, well, gee, I don't understand why Jamie gets all the headlines and nobody else does. Why does Jamie always get put in front? I've faced this myself. When I first struggled, nobody listened to who I was. Nobody thought that I was important. Nobody thought that I accomplished anything worthwhile. But I worked and I worked and I worked, and I got to the stage where I am. And even the people that I was around in the beginning that saw me grow to a level in my business where I was earning a lot of money, to the point where I could go overseas and meet some of my mentors personally, they would get angry at me. They would get upset that I was actually achieving something. And they had no right to be. Nobody has any right to get upset. Nobody. And I just, and it manifests itself in jealousy, getting angry, this whole thing about you deserve everything, you deserve to have all the success that other people do. Nobody deserves it. You've got to work for that yourself. So it isn't the case of just being left out, because that's just boo-hooing and turning into a baby, or dare I say it, a snowflake. So getting back to the list. All right, so we've accomplished the first one, which was stop saying why me. Second one was looking for other means to make yourself feel better, like drugs and people giving you compliments. Feeling you're entitled. that you deserve, that the world owes you something. You demand respect. The next one is you become selfish on such a different level that nobody, for any amount of reason, it doesn't matter how bad a person's situation is, your situation is far worse. You know, it's kind of like if somebody says, well, man, I can't believe it. I actually flew. I got into, and somebody says to you, wow, I drove a bike. And somebody says, well, you know, I drove a car. And one says, well, I drove a tank. Well, I flew in a plane. Well, I piloted the plane. Well, I was in the rocket ship on the way to the moon. Well, I walked on the moon. And I always think about that person, that guy who walked on the moon. Nobody can ever top that story, right? Nobody can top that story. It doesn't matter what you say. It doesn't matter what you've accomplished. Oh, man, you've done this. I walked on the moon. Come on. It just blows everyone out the water. And this is really a mark of selfishness, when you always have to outdo somebody else. You know, the truth of the matter is that real mature people, no matter how great somebody's accomplishment is, you should be, you know, it's like I sent Diane Hockman a message the other day, and I said, I can't believe it, I made L3. She didn't turn around to me and say, which a lot of people would say, oh, that's nothing. Wait till you get to L7. She just turned back to me and said, congratulations. That made me feel amazing. She doesn't need to make herself feel great. You know, people that want to make you feel bad, want to make you feel worse, are people that are ultimately just selfish. And the way to overcome selfishness, again, is to be in a giving spirit, to love people. And it's hard. It's hard in the beginning. But the moment you take action and you start doing it over and over again, that's when it becomes a habit. Maybe you've got something you want to say, Jamie.
Yeah, I mean, I never really had a selfish bone in my body, you know. I never felt entitled to anything. What I see, you know, Dave, you just hit L3. What I see is, man, I need to help more people so I can get up to that level. That's the kind of vision that I see. I need to help more people. You know, not that oh, man, I'm mad because Dave just made L3. I'm jealous because Dave made L3. No, I need to work harder and do more stuff to help more people. That way I can get up to L3.
See, that's the difference. I think that's the difference there. The difference is, oh man, oh I'm not an, you know, whatever it is, I'm at this level. I'm like, the difference is this: when you see somebody else achieving greatness, the right response is to congratulate the person and to work even harder. In a situation like this, to use it as motivation to say, you know what, if they can do it, so can I. L3 is a hell of an accomplishment for me. I tell you something, it wasn't easy to get, but I am so thankful that I managed to get to that level. And I would not have been able to do it without people like Jamie, without people like Robert, and with Pastor Jackie, and with Joe Whistler and Carly. Listen, I would not be able to get there without people like that because of their support. That's the difference. And of course, the last way you can really detect if you are heading into the direction of being a victim is that, now this is important. Listen to what I'm saying here. There is kind of like a situation where you've got something called learned helplessness. Learned helplessness is that, as far as I'm concerned, it's a disease. It is a disease of disease. When you get to the stage of learning helplessness, when you have actually learned now how to be dependent on other people. You know, you got a problem with your computer, you call so-and-so. Nothing wrong with that. But then you got something else. You can't get this working. You call so and so. You got something else working. You call so and so. You got some. Unless you have the money to spend it, you need to take responsibility for yourself. And when you start going in that direction of becoming somebody who is dependent on other people, that's when things fall flat. Because no one is always going to be there all the time. You've got to learn how to do it yourself. You know, one of the things that Pat Patterson, who is a business partner of mine, very smart guy. When he first got online, he thought that the only thing he knew about the internet was email. That's all he knew. He didn't know anything else about email. If you look at him now, the guy is doing programming, basic programming skills.
Yeah, he thought Craigslist. He thought Craigslist was an online yard sale.
Yeah, that's what he thought. He didn't really understand the whole internet thing. But I have seen Pat he gets angry, but he gets angry with himself. He doesn't blame other people. He gets angry with himself. Just recently, Pat made a huge mistake. And the only person he was angry at was himself. Angry at yourself because you can't do something. So he just works harder and he corrects it. So are you actually doing that? When you get angry, do you get angry at yourself or do you get angry at other people? And you know the answer. You know the answer. So you need to be honest with yourself. And so I'm gonna tell you right now that the quickest fix to stop being a victim, the quickest fix to stop being a victim is to become a person who thinks about other people and who loves other people. Why don't you do something like, I don't know, if you're standing at the grocery counter and you see somebody's battling to pay for something, why don't you reach over and give them some money to pay for that thing they can't buy? If you see somebody on the street without food, why don't you get them something to eat? If you know that there's a family that is struggling with groceries or they can't get money, why don't you go and buy them a meal? Why don't you go and buy the family a meal? Why don't you go and do something? Because when you start doing things like that, when you start helping other people and you turn it into a habit, I'm telling you now, magical things happen. Magical things happen. Tony Robbins, when he first started out as somebody who wanted to change the world, one of the very first things he did is he started to buy groceries for families for Christmas. So he started out by paying for somebody's groceries for their Christmas meal. And then the following year, he did 2 families. And the following years, he did 4. And he wanted to double it and double it. And one of his things is he wants to feed 1 billion people. That's what he wants to do. And it comes from the heart of giving. That's the ultimate way you can actually stop being a victim. Because when you start focusing on other people, you get distracted. You know, when I was a youngster, when I was very young in my teens, I suffered from depression. I wanted to kill myself. I wanted to die. And I was in a bad place. Very bad place. And one of the things that my parents did to me is they got me involved with my church. They got me involved, and my job was to set up tables or set up chairs or to help with the food or help with catering or help with the coffee, help with the sugar, help with something. But I was doing something just about every single week. And then I helped out with the youth, and I got involved with the youth. And the greatest things about helping other people is that it's a huge distraction for yourself. Because once you start getting in the habit of helping other people, you forget about your problems and you suddenly realize it isn't that bad. It isn't that bad. Things are not as bad as you think they are. If you make your situation, you can actually make a situation that is so tiny become the biggest obstacle in your world. You know, if you don't know anything about the mustard seed, a mustard seed is the tiniest seed. It's one of the tiniest seeds in the world. But if you plant that mustard seed and you put it on the ground, in the right conditions, obviously, with geographically in the world, you put it in the ground, and you take a boulder, a huge boulder, and you put it on top of the mustard seed. That mustard seed will grow around the boulder. That tiny little thing will grow around the boulder. And I want you to understand something, that even though you might think that you are insignificant or that you don't amount to anything because people don't see your value, when you start helping people, and there's stuff that Jamie has done, I haven't told a soul to other people, that would blow you away, the type of person he is. He doesn't want any credit for it. But that's the type of person that Jamie is. He really wants to help people. You know, I could say the same about Katie and about Pops, about Pat, about Tandy Davis, Dave Sitzler. There's so many people that I can think of where I've had interactions with people that have done the most unbelievable things. And they've learned this because they understand that the only way that you get somewhere in life is by starting to give to other people. If you really want to stop being a victim, if you really want to be, if you want to stop being the person, why me, everything's happening to you, start asking yourself the question, where can I help? That would be interesting, eh? Where can I help? Instead of saying, why me? Where can I help? Where can I help? Or, you know, if you run into a problem, how can I help the situation? I promise you that changes everything. Really does. I don't know if Jamie, you want to say something?
Yeah, I like what Bob said in the chat. Simple acts of kindness. And that's what's wrong with our world today, is we don't do the simple act of kindness like we used to do. I mean, I grew up in a world, and, you know, I was born in the 60s and raised in the 70s. You help thy neighbor. Your neighbor, I mean, I grew up on the farm. You helped your neighbor with everything out on the farm. You know, and today's world is missing that a lot, you know. And both my next door neighbors, you know, they're both older people. Actually, Florence, you know, passed away just a couple of months ago. And I go over and scoop out their driveway in the wintertime because her son lives next door to her, and he's a disabled Navy veteran. You know, so he can't do a lot of things. So I help them. I always help them out as much as I could. And they'd always try to pay me for what I did, you know, and I wouldn't accept it. Then I think it was last year. She brought me over a $20 check after I scooped out her driveway. You know, we got like 18 inches of snow, and me and Steve sit out there with a snow blower and scooped out her driveway and got it all cleaned out. And she brought me a $20 check, and I said, Florence, I don't want this. And she said, you have to receive. You give and give and give. You have to receive. If you don't receive, then the Lord won't bless you with the receiving part of it. I'm like, all right. So I took the $20, you know, and it made me feel good that she told me that, because she was right. You know, I was always giving to my neighbors, but I'd never received nothing in return. So, and I did a video, Facebook Live on this a week ago, you know, talking about giving and receiving. It's not only giving, you have to be willing to receive, because if you're always giving, when the big break and the big money comes to you, you're going to miss it because you're not willing to receive it.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, a lot of people don't even like, you know, maybe you've also, and this might be a tiny subtle hint of being a victim maybe as well. I'm not, you know, maybe in the reverse sense, but if you are not prepared to take a compliment or any form of somebody really wants to help you out and you refuse that, that's just as bad, because somebody really wants to help you. Somebody out there wants to help, so let them help you. You know, and, you know, this, I have a friend of mine, he's a plumber. And he, one of the most, I mean, with regards to being kind and generous, he's one of the most kind and generous people I know. You know, he'll if I call him over and I got a problem with my plumbing or whatever, and I can't get something working or the tap's not working, he just comes over, looks at it, and he'll just go into his cab or his car, and he'll just get something and fix it for me. He's not expecting anything. He just does it. But I'm an IT guy. And the other day, his computer completely crashed on him. Like, it didn't work at all. And he brought it over. So I just took a look at it. And I cleaned it out and I gave it back to him. I didn't expect anything from him. And I don't expect anything from him. It's sometimes you have friendships with people as well where, and here's a piece of advice I'll give for you. This is actually something I took from Jerry Seinfeld. Be a poor accountant. Stop taking stock of how many times somebody has helped you so you can pay them back. Stop that. Don't. Because if you do, you'll live your life with just marking these things where, oh, okay, he did something for me, I got to do something for him. I have a friend like that. Every time I do something for them, they think, okay, now they've got to do something for me. How annoying is that? That's almost like having a friendship on paper. You know, and then when you meet true leaders who help people, who help so many people, they don't expect anything back. That's when you start to stand out. And you know, I like what you said, Jamie, about the fact that you've got to learn to receive as well. You can't just expect to give. You know, if you keep saying no all the time, you know, that's almost as bad as not giving, in my opinion. That's the other thing I can't stand. we used to have, you know, these ministers that used to come out and preach, right? I was involved with this church years ago where they would say something like, in my humble opinion. Who the heck says that? Who says that? In my humble opinion. In my little opinion. In other words, listen to what I have to say. It's important. Jeez, it used to drive me crazy. I know it's an expression some people say, but it drives me up the wall. Anyway, Katie is not here. I need to call you Katie, buddy.
I don't think I can pull Katie off.
No.
We'll just stick with Jamie. So.
With Jamie. So we're at the top of the hour. We're 2 minutes to, and before I go, I just want to say that we got an announcement happening in a few weeks' time about a program that's going to help a lot of people, I believe. And we very much would like you guys to hear it and to be a part of it. It's certainly going to help you, and it's a great resource. But we'll keep that going for you in the future, and I know it's a really exciting deal. So we will keep you informed of that. But please also understand that we have this workshop which we run every Saturday, and at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Saturday. So it's in the morning. A lot more people can get to it. And that really helps us out with our businesses. So keep that in mind. Jamie, you want to say something before we leave?
Yeah, I just want to give everybody in the chat a shout out. Joe Whistler, Robert Nevin, Pastor Jackie, Carlene. You know, I think Joe McKenzie was in there. You know, thank you guys for showing up every week, you know, and supporting us. We really appreciate it. And we just want to give you a little recognition for being here every week. So.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And Colleen, we will have a Zoom soon. I'd like to speak to you about your blog. Colleen is really amazing me. She's doing her blog and she's getting that all ready. And so she is taking huge steps and huge, massive action steps, which is such an inspiration. And I wish I was that active when I first got started with my business. So well done, Colleen. Oh, you want to say something?
No, I'm good. I'm pretty much out of things to say. I mean, get out of the victim mentality. You know, quit boo-hooing about it. You know, if you really want to get out of the boo-hoo mentality, get in some mindset training. You know, some good, solid mindset training, and that boo-hoo mentality will go away.
That's true. You know, that's the other thing. When I said you got to love people, that is true. But if you want to help your mindset as well, go ahead and get onto that Deep Abyss training you see on the right hand side of the screen. It's called the Deep Abyss. It's only $25 a month, and you know, every single month we get to hear from a 7-figure earner, Diane Hockman, and she just spills the beans on life and how to think correctly about things. It's such a good thing to surround yourself with people who think correctly.
And she kicks your butt when you need it to on there.
She kicked my butt. She kicked my butt live. I mean, Jamie was there. I was asking her a question, and she just went whoosh, like completely just obliterated my argument. And I was so thankful for that. You know, that's before we end, I suppose I should also say that you need to be able to also take criticism. You need to be able to do it. You know, I think that's probably something we could add here too. If you can't take criticism, that also may be a sign that you're also stuck in victim mode. You know, you need to be able to take somebody saying, this is not right. You need to change your actions. Because pride is the worst thing in the world. You suddenly get to a level where nobody can tell you squat. And I remember what my dad always used to say to me. He used to say, well, he says this all the time. He says, truth is truth no matter where it comes from. It could come from a huge executive in a business, or it could come from somebody who's a street sweeper. Truth is truth. And if you, for some reason, think that the CEO of a high corporation can give you better advice just because he's up there, you'll be surprised what other people can do even when they're down here, because they've got a lot to learn about humility. People who often reach the top forget, you know, what it's like. We're going way off topic here, so I'm going to end this off right now. Thank you so much for joining us. Don't forget Jamie's shows on Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You've got to get on there. He gives some amazing stuff out there. And don't forget Sonia and Maria on Tuesday, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then as well as that, we got Pat Patterson on Wednesday. You want to get on there because we are announcing something huge on Wednesday. You want to be a part of that as well. So with that being said, you have a super fantastic week. We will see you same time next week. Cheers.